How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Never say I'm not willing to revise and extend my prior remarks. We began the program today with the airspace of El Paso being closed for 10 days by the military as they target cartel drones coming across the border. It actually is a thing. The cartels are having to use drones now to try to drop drugs into the United States because the border's so secure, they're having a hard time getting across. And the U.S. military this morning said due to drone activity and counter-drone activity in the El Paso airspace, they were shutting down the airspace. Well, turns out it was a party balloon. Might have been a gender reveal. The Air Force thought they were dealing with drones from south of the border, but it was actually party balloons. A buddy of mine who lives in the area says that they cut off an American city because of gross incompetence. So, okay, moving on. Now you know. Now you got the deal. Good gracious. By the way, the race in Georgia for governor has been shaken up there. This is kind of a national story, and I get a lot of flack sometimes because I live in Georgia, and if I talk about Georgia, this is too Georgia specific. This is actually a very interesting story in Georgia. There is a Republican primary to replace Brian Kemp, and everything was kind of locked in. You had the Secretary of State and the Attorney General running, Brad Raffensperger and Chris Carr, who are decidedly on the Trump naughty list against Burt Jones, who had been endorsed by Donald Trump, who is not the greatest guy on the campaign trail, but a very, very nice guy and the current lieutenant governor. And the race has now been come undone by a self-made billionaire who grew up in the projects of Atlanta, whose name is Rick Jackson. He runs Jackson Health. Essentially, if you're a foster kid in Georgia going to college, you get a scholarship from him to cover your college. He is deeply committed to foster care because he was in the foster system, among other things. And he's jumped into the race, and I will do the first national interview with Rick Jackson at the bottom of this hour today as he enters the race, so stick around for that. I need to talk again about AI right now, and a piece that has gone viral. I'm wondering if this was written by AI. Matt Schumer is the CEO of HyperWrite AI, which identifies itself as your AI personal assistant, writing and productivity tools. And also Other Side AI, the creator of HyperWrite AI, and he's written this piece, and I don't know if this piece was written by AI or not. Given the number of ellipses used in it, which is not something most people write with, my suspicion is that he used AI to help write this piece, probably not AI itself, but essentially writing what does this mean for his job. If you haven't heard, the head of safety for Anthropic, which is Claude, the Claude AI system, announced he was leaving. Leaving Anthropic, and he's leaving, essentially, he says, because it's so dangerous, AI is so dangerous that it's time to flee. This is from eWeek. The head of AI safety at Anthropic has resigned, citing deep concerns about global crises and internal pressures that clash with core values. Renex Sharma, the senior AI safety leader at Anthropic, saying he's stepping away because he believes the world is in peril. He led the company's safeguards research team and announced his departure in a letter, quote, "I continuously find myself reckoning with our situation. The world is imperiled, and not just from AI or bioweapons, but from a series of interconnected crises unfolding at this very moment. Throughout my time here, I've repeatedly seen how hard it is to truly let our values govern our actions. I've seen this within myself, within the organization, where we constantly face pressure to set aside what matters most, and throughout broader society too. We appear to be approaching a threshold where our wisdom must grow in equal measure to our capacity to affect the world, lest we face the consequences." And essentially, as I understand it, he announced that he is moving to the countryside in the UK to become a poet. You can't make that stuff up. He put it on social media, and it's I hope to explore a poetry degree and devote myself to the practice of courageous speech. Good Lord. I got to say this. I don't know what the future holds for AI, and I don't know that anyone holds it. And this guy writing on Twitter has gone viral, and I've seen some people say it's AI slop, and some people say this is good and meaningful content. Here's what I know to be true. Humanity, in the story of Genesis, built a giant tower to try to compete with God and get to heaven, and God smote them, divided their language, and caused confusion. Now there are AI models that can put languages back together and do real-time translations and things like that. That's kind of wild. We are, as a people, many of us who are not grounded in faith believe ourselves to be gods, and we can do the work of gods, and God will not be mocked. And I don't know where this winds up. I do think, like my last caller said, white-collar jobs in particular are really going to be impacted by AI. Let me read you some of the breakdown from this guy's piece on Twitter. AI can already read contracts, summarize case law, draft briefs, and do legal research at a level that rivals junior associates. The managing partner of a law firm I mentioned isn't using AI because it's fun. He's using it because it outperforms his associates. Financial analysis, building financial models, analyzing data, writing investment memos, generating reports. AI handles those competently and is improving. Marketing copy, reports, journalism, technical writing. The quality has reached a point where many professionals can't distinguish AI output from human work. In software engineering, a year ago, AI could barely write a few lines of code without error. Now it writes hundreds of thousands of lines that work correctly. Large parts of the job are already automated, not just simple tasks, but complex multi-day projects. There will be far fewer programming roles in a few years than there are today. Medical analysis, reading scans, analyzing lab results, suggesting diagnoses, reviewing literature. AI is approaching or exceeding human performance. And in customer service, there are genuinely AI-capable agents, not the frustrating chatbots of 5 years ago. They're being deployed now, handling complex multi-step problems. A lot of people find comfort in the idea that certain things are safe, that AI can handle the grunt work, but can't replace human judgment, creativity, strategic thinking, empathy. I used to say that's true. I'm not so sure I believe it anymore. And here's part of the problem, and it's that key paragraph there. 1. AI is not a substitute for humanity. We are in a crisis in our age of mental health. People have isolated themselves, and in isolation, despair builds, and some people mask that isolation and that despair with things that give them temporary joy that ultimately amplifies the despair. They go on drugs and other things to try to discard the despair, but it just causes the despair to build, and the despair comes from the isolation, and AI is going to fester isolation, and you owe it to yourselves and your family to build community with actual human beings. 2, You cannot replace human judgment with computers. Why? Because we are made in the image and likeness of God Almighty himself, and a computer is not. So you cannot, and it will not happen. And to the extent that you think it will, here's what you can do. And I did an experiment on this with Claude, which I think is the bleeding edge AI, and I use it regularly these days. But you know what you can do? You can ask ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, or Gemini, or any other AI system a complex question and get an answer that's easy to understand, and then ask it the second question, are you sure? And 60% of the time, the AI comes up with a different answer. Why? Because AI is built by flawed human beings who want to be agreeable, and so the AI reflects the agreeability. You're not going to get the creativity because AI is, it builds on things that have come before it. You're not going to find uniqueness. Those of you in arts and crafts, we're seeing these movies come out of AI. You can replace the computer animation. You can replace the people who are animating the movie. You can replace the people who are doing the sound effects. You can replace the people doing the visual effects. You can't have AI just conjure the idea. It's the creative person at the keyboard who's doing it. The creative person is going to be okay. Lastly, we live in a world where the godless secular atheists of Silicon Valley who invent this stuff believe that they themselves are gods and they will be humbled. And they oftentimes believe on the rise of the machine. They think the machine's going to take over the world, and they're scared of their own technology because they are convinced that Terminator is real. Terminator is not real. You know what's real? God. And God will not be mocked. To the extent that you are using and developing AI, AI is limited by your own capacities. The idea that you're going to create an AI that can exceed the capacities of humanity is wrong, because humanity itself is created in the image and likeness of a living God, and AI is created in our likeness, and we are deeply flawed individuals. So can it screw things up? Absolutely. Can it destroy the job market? Absolutely. Can it replace empathy for humanity? No. Can it replace human judgment? No. Can it replace humanity? No. What it can do, though, is drag you into further isolation where it can control and dominate you, and that's your choice. I'm a Calvinist. I don't use this phrase lightly. You have free will. You have volition. You can choose to act or not act. I actually do think that a lot of the AI fear scenarios are overhyped, and I actually think we're going to find a way around the job situation. People will head into a job market, and they will be limited in some capacity, but the smart, creative ones, they're going to get ahead. I think that there are a lot of colleges now that are very smart to train students to have a leg up on AI by understanding and doing more than just rudimentary tasks. And also, I can tell you what's going to happen with human beings. You know what we don't talk about enough? And it's going to come out. Human beings are great at licensing. AI is not. Oh, you want your taxes done? Well, guess what? They're going to have to be done by a CPA, a certified public accountant. And AI can't get a CPA degree because it's not going to sit for the test. There's no computers allowed. Oh, you want the lawyer to write your will? Well, it's got to be done by a lawyer who went to a law school, certified by the bar, and AI is not going to be able to do that. They'll assist the lawyer. You want your house built? Well, it's got to be certified by an engineer. The AI can't certify it because the AI is not human. We will license the snot out of job creation on this planet to protect ourselves from AI, so that AI is our tool and, frankly, our slave, but it's not going to replace all the jobs because we'll put our jobs behind a license that no computer can apply for. But also there's this. A lot of this is going to be our choices as people. Someone the other day was telling me his wife lost a member of her family. And the reaction of the two bosses, his and hers. One of the bosses, he didn't say who, but I know his boss, so I know he was the good one. The one boss said, you take all the time you need. We've got your job covered. Let us know how things are going and if there's anything we can do. And the other boss said, we give you bereavement days, but you really don't have to take them. This wasn't your immediate, like mom and dad or sibling. Now, that latter boss is the one who's going to try to drive people out of work and use AI. There are good people who aren't going to go all in on AI because they understand that when you start replacing human beings and you deprive people of work, that's bad for humanity. There will be others who don't care. They want it for a buck. And at the end of the day, I suspect that the ones who invest in people are going to shine. People will use AI as tools. They will not use AI as replacement for humanity. And the people who do use AI for replacement as humanity eventually are not going to stand out from the pack. They're all going to look iterative of each other. And it's the creative class that embraces humanity that's actually going to stand out. Why? Because, again, we're created in the image and likeness of God. That gives us a leg up on technology that can only look like us. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. 877-973-7425 is the phone number, although we've got a guest coming at the bottom of the hour, so I won't be able to take your phone calls. Gallup is ending its presidential approval polling. It ended its horse race polling a couple of years ago, and this is actually really significant. You may say, well, the polling's wrong, blah, 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 but Gallup has used relatively the same methodology since 1937 on presidential approval polling. And so it has a consistent body of work going back to 1937. It is kind of the benchmark just because it has so much data that no one else has. It's a sign of the times, though, that other pollsters have come in with newer, better methodologies. Polling itself is harder and harder to do. It's why I pay attention to polling averages far more than I pay attention to individual polling. It's just interesting to see that, the most famous pollster in the world is dropping its polling for presidential approval. This is the world we live in. Coming up, the self-made billionaire Rick Jackson is going to join me by phone to talk about his race for governor in Georgia. Fascinating, must win for the GOP in an increasingly swing state of Georgia. I'll get to that. But first, I've got to tell you about Eden Pure and the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them at EdenPureDeals.com. Put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, at EdenPureDeals.com. And you can get 3 of them. And they clean the air. They're an air purifier, so they get rid of dust, pollen. They get rid of pet dander. They also get rid of 99.9% of bacteria and viruses. And they generate ozone, which goes into the air and acts as odor bleach, killing the ionized particles you and I know as odors. You can use them in cars, and you can use them in your RV. You can use them in hotel rooms, your home, your basement, your upstairs, your downstairs, wherever you need them. If they don't work, you get a money-back guarantee. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. At EdenPureDeals.com. And again, if they don't work, you can check out the website for the money-back guarantee, but they're going to work. I keep one in my travel bag. They're very, very portable. You can plug it in with a USB cord or plug it into the wall, and it will wipe out odors wherever those odors are. So check them out at EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. When we come back, the head of Jackson Health, Rick Jackson, who's going to run for governor in Georgia. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States, here in Georgia as well, where my flagship station is. And those of you nationally are just going to have to forgive me for focusing a little bit on my state here for a moment, because we've had a big shakeup in our gubernatorial primary for the Republicans. It seemed to be all status quo. The Attorney General of Georgia running, Chris Carr, the Secretary of State running, Brad Raffensperger, both of whom are on the Trump naughty list, against the Trump-endorsed Burt Jones, who is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Georgia. And then last week, this debut ad dropped on YouTube, an introduction to Rick Jackson, a self-made man here in the state of Georgia with a compelling backstory and a very generous heart to the faith community and the foster care community in the state of Georgia, among others, and the head of Jackson Health in Georgia, and known by a lot of politicians on both sides. And he's joining me for his first interview. Mr. Jackson, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Eric. It's nice to be with you. I'm glad to say that you're the first person I talked to, because I interviewed you like 15 years ago, I think, and that's the first time. So, and you're such a great person for conservative values, and so I wanted you to be the first.
Well, look, I very much appreciate it, and I got to ask you out of the gate, why do this? Particularly with the field as it's shaped, with the Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General, why jump into this thing?
Well, first of all, I have just really been inspired by what Trump did in Washington as a business leader, and I've always wondered what it would be like for that to be done in Georgia. And so, therefore, I just think Georgia is ready for somebody like Trump that's a business outsider, that's not into politics, not owing anybody, not just talking, but actually doing things. And because of my background in foster care and where I lived and where I grew up, I just felt like that somebody needed to actually think about the people that don't have money, that don't have the capability of hiring lobbyists, that are doing it for them, because I've been there. So I just felt like that the race was not, in my mind, going in the direction. I was really afraid that we would lose the race, and I was not going to let President Trump down and lose in Georgia. So that's the reason I got in.
Now, the lieutenant governor's team would say he's already been endorsed by the president. So how is your entry going to complicate that, or will it complicate that, to your knowledge?
Look, President Trump is going to, I'm going to be the number one favorite governor of President Trump. And, Burt Jones had a valuable asset of an endorsement by President Trump. But to be honest, he has just been completely lazy and not worked for it. And so the difference is what I found out, when you come out of the circumstances I have, you have to work in order to get something. You can't just call it in and just rely on that. Having that asset is good. What we need is somebody that's going to work like hell, just like President Trump does, and actually is going to work for the people. So my focus is that we're going to win, because that's what I do. I work hard. I don't talk about it. I just do it.
So you've mentioned out twice your background, and I have too. You should probably, for those who don't know you, with a national audience in particular, but also a lot of people in Georgia, tell people about your background.
Well, first of all, I didn't have a father. He left when I was 9 months old, and my mother was an alcoholic. I went to 8 different elementary schools. We moved around from really slums to slums, and most of the time I was in a place called Techwood Projects in Atlanta. When I was 12 years old, I ran away to basically go into the DFACS, or the foster care system. I went into 5 different homes and so forth like that. I couldn't afford to go to college. I got married at 19, started a straight commission job, and then at 21 I started my own business, and have been in my business ever since. So one of the things you learn, Eric, is in my environment, when you're completely out of control of your environment, I found that work and that kind of, that dedication to working and achieving and being on your own and being self-reliant, not because I couldn't rely on any human as a child, I became very self-reliant, and by working hard, I figured out a way to get out of that. And then also, we've been very fortunate. God's been fortunate, and we have a $3 billion business right now.
Now, your business is healthcare, and I know you stepped up. You helped Brian Kemp in particular during the COVID situation. And can you talk a little bit about just your involvement there during COVID, and then also what you've done for foster kids in the state of Georgia?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, Brian, COVID was a terrible time for everybody. And look, let me say, we ought to erect a monument to Brian Kemp for what he did during COVID. It was just heroic. But his staff called me and said, can we, help staff, nurses and doctors and so forth, because they were getting sick, and it was just a terrible time. And the feds allowed that to pay that. It didn't cost Georgians any money. But basically, we stepped up. And we immediately, on a handshake, I spent over about $10 million before we even had a contract because people were dying in Albany, Georgia, and other places. And so we stepped up and made sure that Georgia had all the nurses and doctors and other clinical people that they needed because they were getting sick. When we first started in Albany, Georgia, Phoebe Putney, it took a week to get a COVID test back then. And so we were in dire need. So, but what I did is we could have sent nurses and doctors to New York for 3 times more than they were in Georgia. But because I live here, I told our company, they go to Georgia first before they go anywhere else. And so we supplied during, for a couple of years, thousands of doctors and nurses and so forth. And I'm just glad that we worked together with the state, and we saved a lot of lives by the people that we staffed during that period of time. Now, on the foster care thing, I'm not sure I have enough time to talk to you about that, but the thing that I'm most glad about, if you can imagine being 18 years old and your parents telling you, hey, good luck, I hope it works out, but don't call me anymore. Well, what if you didn't have any parents? Well, that's what happens when you age out of foster care. So we developed a program to help children to do 2 things. They need a life coach, which we provide, and then we give them all the resources to go to college or go to school, get a job and so forth like that, get their GED, whatever they want. And Eric, I'm glad to tell you that started 2 years ago, and today there are 500 children that have aged out of foster care that we support as a scholarship, completely support them. Not only scholarship, but their food, transportation, room and board, all that kind of stuff. They're in college right now, 76 colleges in Georgia. So that's a kind of conservative approach that I want to apply everywhere else, to be honest, Eric.
Well, let's talk about those issues. You're running for governor. We've got a big fight in our state on how to handle the income tax, the sales tax, the property tax. What's your view as these fights shape up? What's your tax plan?
Well, first of all, I think we can eliminate in the first session or my first term at least 50% of the taxes, and in the next term we'll try to work on eliminating the rest of it. But I tell you, the property taxes are a big thing. This was actually kind of surprised me a little bit. But we have elderly people that have had their homes for a long time, and the assessments have gone up so much, they're having to move out of their house because they can't afford the property taxes. And so we have to freeze and reduce that. The other thing is that, look, Eric, if we can't teach the Christianity in school, we should not be teaching the religion of woke ideology. So we have to eliminate DEI at its core. And then also we have to work with the president to eliminate and deport every criminal illegal in the state of Georgia. And lastly, look, I believe that the free rides are over. If you're on government assistance and you can work, you should work, and you will work. When I was a child, we lived off of government assistance. It saved us. But we were embarrassed about that. We didn't want to be dependent forever. And so we basically wanted to work and get out of that situation. And it's not bad, Eric, to have people work. It's for their own self-respect. God made us to be productive, and that's what I want to do, is to help people get back on their feet and be self-sustaining on their own.
Now, I got just a minute or two more with you here. And again, I'm talking to Rick Jackson, who has jumped into the gubernatorial primary here in Georgia on the Republican side. Rick, health care is one of those issues that you know a lot about, and it's one of those issues that continues to flare up in the state as to how we move forward with Medicare and Medicaid reform, whether we go full Obamacare or not. I mean, what's your thinking on health care right now in the state and how it's shaping up at the policy level?
Well, first of all, we're not going to be able to rely on the feds to solve this problem. I'm going to create a system of health care in Georgia that's going to lead the nation. We're going to have the most cost-effective health care system in the country, or I will quit. I know exactly what it's going to take. I know exactly how healthcare works. Look, healthcare is very complicated. If you've ever talked to a politician, as soon as you mention healthcare, their eyes glaze over. It's very complicated. It's not to me. I know exactly what we're going to do. We have to get rid of a lot of the extreme middle people into the system. There's just a lot of inefficiency. Let me give you an example. I bought a plant, the last antibiotic plant in the United States. We make a dose of penicillin or amoxicillin for 7 cents. Do you know what you pay for it? You pay for $1. There's 6 people between us 7 cents manufacturing it and you getting it for $1. If you eliminate all of those unnecessary middle people and frictional costs and all that, it would be a lot less. I mean, even President Trump came out with Trump RX. He's looking at it the exact way. That's a business solution. Those are the kind of things I want to do. So the bottom line is it's complicated, but I will promise you that we will have the most cost-effective program in the country, period.
Now, you say that, and I had totally forgotten that you bought, if I understand it was the last antibiotic plant still in the United States and was about to go out of business, and you bought it and kept it going.
Yes, absolutely. Well, when I found out, so I get a call from a bankruptcy trustee asking me if I want to come bid on a generic plant in Bristol, Tennessee, and I said, well, you can't make money doing that. And then I found out, I called a friend of mine who said that he was part of the Forward Group of China when under President Trump. And the Chinese people said, you can't win a trade war with us. And they said, why? And they said, well, we supply 100% of your antibiotics. And they just froze. And I was sitting, that was in 2017. I was shocked. So I told my son on the way back home, I said, look, we cannot be reliant on China and everybody else for this antibiotic. It would take $400 million to replace this place in 5 years to get it approved by FDA. I just could not stand by and allow that thing to close. And so we bought it, renamed it to U.S. Antibiotics, and it is now we can supply 100% of all of our antibiotics in the United States. We'll never be reliant on anybody again in the future.
Well, listen, I got to let you go there. This is a great introduction, though, to your background and the things you care about, and I appreciate you taking time with me to do this, and best of luck on the campaign trail to you.
Well, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. For those of you in Georgia, I'm going to work, obviously, on getting the other candidates on as well. I'll even invite on the Democratic candidates and have an introduction in Georgia. I'll find a way to be able to do it for my Georgia audience, so you guys nationally don't have to subject yourself to Georgia interviews, but also got some great candidates around the country, too, like Chip Roy running for Attorney General in Texas and others that I want to put the spotlight on and help you guys understand. There's some great candidates out there. And then here in Georgia as well, my friend Chris Carr is running for governor, and Burt Jones. I've got great relationships with them, and Brad Raffensperger as well. And we'll make sure that they all get equal time on the show moving forward. Now, I need to tell you about Old Glory Bank. They're my bank, and they could be your bank if you go to oldglorybank.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Old Glory Bank was started by conservatives, and it was a real concern of theirs when Joe Biden was president, and progressives around the country were targeting banks, trying to get banks to debank not just conservatives, but also businesses they didn't like, whether it was plants and companies involved with coal or gun manufacturers and the like, and hurt them. And so Old Glory Bank got started to protect conservatives. And now that Trump is president, you don't have to worry about that so much, but you still need to worry about working with a banker that wants to work with you. And they're one of the fastest growing banks in the country, in large part because they're very hands-on. They take care of veterans, first responders, active duty military. They great with businesses. You can do business checking and savings. You can do premium accounts. I've got the basics. You can do the premium accounts, custodial accounts for your kids, you name it. oldglorybank.com/Eric, oldglorybank.com/ERICK. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta play you this. The audio speaks for itself. This is the Attorney General of the United States who has been asked why she's not indicted any of Jeffrey Epstein's clients.
The Dow right now is over The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr.
The question was, why have you not indicted any of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? How bad at her job is she? This is embarrassing. This is the Attorney General of the United States, not the Secretary of the Treasury, not the Secretary of Commerce. The Attorney General asked the question, why haven't you indicted clients of Jeffrey Epstein? And her response is, well, the Dow is over 50,000. Ladies and gentlemen of the United States of America, why is our Attorney General playing to the blonde stereotype? I have no idea. What an embarrassing response by the Attorney General. Folks, I signed up with Incogni, and now I'm glad to have them as an advertiser. It's like incognito, but it's Incogni, INCOGNI. /Eric, incogni.com/Eric. No, they are a company that serves as your online representative to stop the data brokers online from selling your information. A lot of the spam calls you get, the extended warranty calls, the you've been approved for credit calls, things like that, come because you do business with a company that then puts you into a data broker portal where they sell your information. Say, hey, this person just bought a car. Well, call them about the extended warranty, or this person has a thriving business. Let's call them about their business. And what Incogni does is it serves as your representative to send essentially takedown letters to these data brokers online and say, delete your private information. You didn't consent to it, so delete it. And my spam calls have gone down dramatically, and yours will too. Incogni.com/Eric, INCOGNI, incogni.com/Eric. I'm so tired of the extended warranty calls, and Incogni has taken them out. Incogni.com/Eric.